Well, welcome to the presentation on the stress bucket. First, I want to introduce myself. My name is Darla Gettler, and I'm a clinical social work counselor with DragonFly Child and Family Wellness Center. And I have been working in the field of youth and adult mental health for many, many years. We're going to be talking about stress, and we're going to use the analogy of a stress bucket to learn about kind of what fills our bucket up and our individual abilities to cope with stress. And then we're going to spend some time brainstorming some of the individual things that up our stress level, and then learn some science-backed skills to help reduce stress. And we're going to start off with a little video here. I'm going to cross my fingers it all works really well. Okay.
Stress is usually seen as something we need to avoid. This is not true. We need stress, and we need our body's stress hormone cortisol to rise and fall throughout the day. Stress helps us wake up in the morning, helps us focus, learn, and remember new things. It's when people experience too much stress and start having difficulties coping that stress becomes a problem. High levels of stress can disrupt the natural changes in the body's stress response system and start to affect our physical and mental health. Over time, accumulated stress can result in false FFF response activations. When trying to measure our stress tolerance, the bucket analogy can be helpful. Our stress tolerance, or the size of our bucket, is a product of our genes, personality, and life experiences, and its size varies from person to person. The water in this analogy is the combination of all the stress in your life. We use the coping strategies we have available to keep our bucket from overflowing. They are like taps that allow water to drain from the bucket. Stress can include training, work, school, relationships, finances, moving, changing jobs, or the loss of a loved one. Both positive and negative experiences will affect the water level. A big bucket can hold more water or stress before it overflows. With a smaller bucket, less water is required for the water or stress level to become critical. While you can't change the size of your bucket, you can make life adjustments to reduce water coming in. You can also learn new coping strategies and stress management techniques to allow water to drain out. Mind tools, exercise, quality sleep, relaxation, and sharing your feelings with friends are some examples of effective water taps. Staying up late, sleeping in, drugs, inactivity, procrastination, suppressing or ignoring problems are examples of unhelpful coping strategies or false taps. They might give temporary relief, but actually result in water flowing back into your bucket. This video was created by Brave, Building Healthy Minds.
Okay. So that little video tended to have a lot of information in 2 minutes, all of it, which is very important. I'm just going to just mention a few really key takeaways from that little video. So as we all know, we need a little bit of stress in our lives or we'd be constant couch potatoes. So stress motivates us a little bit to get things done. But we often know that if we get too many things going on in our lives, that we start to have physical and emotional and mental symptoms that are, kind of really negative for our overall well-being. So we're trying to figure out ways to kind of stay in that sweet spot where we have enough motivation and where we're not feeling overwhelmed and having all the symptoms that come with too high of stress levels. One of the things that was really important in that little video is the size of our bucket is really individual. So basically, we are born with a predetermined ability to handle stressors. And some people you may know in your life can handle a great deal of things quite effectively. And those people we often envy, where we feel sometimes that we're struggling with even just small little things that are stressing us. But the good news is that we can all learn skills to increase our ability to manage stress more effectively. Another key point there was that what stresses us is also very individualized. So, for example, I know for myself, I can handle like very high crisis situations. And interestingly enough, they don't stress me very much. But if I have some conflict with friends or something, I am stressed for days. So, kind of what triggers our stress, what impacts us the most is also very individualized. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. So we're going to start with talking about some common stressors that most people report. And then we're going to go into talking a little bit about what you find is your individual stressors. Mhm. Okay, so the big one is lack of sleep. And I know that I always tell my clients that we have to always start at the basics. So we're going to add to this lack of sleep also not getting enough good nutrition and not getting at least some exercise. So when we kind of forget about those basics, it sets us up to not be able to handle other things in our life effectively. So it's really important to always check in to make sure you're getting adequate sleep. And, that varies for everybody, but we got to say at least, a good average of 7 hours. And we got to be getting some good nutrition. We can't, be eating junk food all the time, even though it tastes good. And yeah, a little exercise. And that can just be, walking around. But we need those things to keep our physiological body at its prime. Okay. Some other stressors people report quite frequently is when there are people, family members, or friends that they know that they're having issues with. So again, this could be arguments, conflict, that sort of thing. Um, when our schedule gets too busy. So we can handle several things probably quite effectively, but then, another thing's added on and another thing, another expectation, something that we have to attend. Then we find that we feel more overwhelmed, and this is starting to fill up our bucket. Several other things that most people report is that you have things that are overdue. So, if you're in high school or university, that oftentimes the, number of assignments, homework, or that sort of thing that you have to get done becomes too much. And the tendency for most people is that when things become too much, it increases our procrastination. So it's like when we start feeling overwhelmed by things, we do want to have a natural tendency to withdraw from it and procrastinate more, which of course isn't helpful because then it just builds up more and more. But it is a very natural response. Um, Money worries. Now, this can apply to anybody, but certainly is a big one for those people who are working or responsible for paying some bills and that sort of thing. And then, of course, others letting you down. So friends, family members, just disappointments. And again, as I mentioned earlier, that some of these things we're more sensitive to than others. Also, uncertainty about the future. This is a big one for young adults, young people, because there's a lot of expectation put on young people to know what they want to do in the future, to maybe try and get a job. And these things are confusing and sometimes difficult. And so you're kind of left with just a lot of uncertainty and feeling lost, and that creates a lot of internal stress. And of course, conflict. Nobody likes conflict. And conflict with friends, family, teacher, in relationships, those will naturally trigger us to feel anxious and unable to cope. We've added social media in here, and of course, social media in and of itself isn't generally a stressor. It depends, kind of what you're following, what you're watching. News for people, especially these days with all the craziness going on in the States, it tends to make people's anxiety rise a bit. And I think, when you start to notice that, that's the cue to like not be watching those sorts of things. Also on social media, as we all know, um, unkind things can be shared. I hear a lot of young people tell me that comments on Instagram or different things that are shared by Snap can be very hurtful and very unkind. And of course, that's going to increase anybody's anxiety and stress level. And that's the time to really pull back from giving your attention to social media. It's like giving yourself a bit of a detox from that is most helpful in those situations. And lastly, on this common list is illness. So of yourself or others that are important in your life. Of course, getting negative feedback from anybody, and this could be, criticisms, harsh words, like sometimes shared behind the social media screen, um, can be hurtful and confusing and really cause a lot of anxiety for people. So those are ones that are, I guess, common. Now, what I'd like you to do for just a few minutes is grab a piece of paper and draw out a little bucket and write down a couple of things that maybe I didn't mention or that you find is a particular trigger for your stress to rise, and just write those down beside the bucket. And remember that these can be both negative and positive things. So even around positive events like Christmas, going to a party, a wedding, any of those things, which really are happy celebrations, can also cause us stress. So I'm going to just time us for maybe a minute, 2 minutes while you write those down. Wow, a minute seems like a long time when there's dead silence.
Yeah, we should have some like ambient music in the background
I
playing so it
know.
doesn't like elevator music, you know what I mean?
Yes, that really sad elevator music.
Yeah.
Or I was thinking, what was that? That game show that was like do 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 do. You don't know what I'm talking about, do you?
Oh, no, I don't. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I don't know what the game show was called, but it had this little kind of funny music. Okay.
Yeah,
So
we'll work on adding background music.
yeah, that might be kind of cool. So I think that, well, the people are on, maybe you have come up with a couple of things. So I'm wondering if anybody has something that I haven't discussed that they would like to share. And apparently I see a little hand if somebody has something to share. Is that right, LV?
Sorry, I forgot I was muted, but yes.
Oh, okay. And if nobody wants to, that's okay too. Just as long as you've had some time to reflect on what really triggers your stress level to go up. And at any time, if you have a question, because I think sometimes I talk fast, um, please raise the little virtual hand there. Okay, so let's go on to the next slide. So how do we know when we are in the overwhelmed stage or when our bucket starts to overflow? Well, our brilliant bodies start to give us clues or cues. And usually those come in the form of emotions or our mood changes. We can start having physical symptoms, or we can have mental or cognitive symptoms. And sometimes our relationships start to suffer. So some of the examples of those clues or cues that are going on for us is that we feel an increased sense of anxiety. So we might have, racing heart rate. We might find that we're having difficulty sleeping, um, irritable. So a lot of time when we're feeling overwhelmed with things, our mood changes. We become irritable, directed primarily at other people. So we become less enjoyable to be around. And it's not often, kind of like the person that we are. Good indicator that things are getting to be too much. So this follows along with having a harder time to control your emotions. So, you might feel overwhelmed one minute, really sad the next, really angry the next, and often, taking that out on other people, and you're not wanting to. Um, and then there can be a number of other negative consequences. So one that I had mentioned is that, sometimes our relationships suffer, so that either we're being mean and irritable to the people who are close to us, or we're just withdrawing from people. So I think the next one is a little activity for you as well, because as in the things that cause us stress, that are very individualized, so are the ways that we exhibit stress, the ways that other people see that things aren't going so well for us. So on your paper, if you wouldn't mind just thinking of a couple of minutes about what do you think, or what have you noticed, or maybe other people around you have noticed, when your levels of stress are going up. So what other people might see you doing, saying, and how you're feeling both emotionally and how your body feels. So I'm going to give you another minute for that. Probably a minute's long enough. Da, da, da. Yeah, I'll time you. So write down a couple of these. And maybe it'd be great if somebody would just tell us one. Hi, how do you raise your hand? That's a good question. Elvie? Somebody is saying that they can't find that option.
So you should see an icon saying raise hand. If you don't, there should be like a more option, an option that says more, and then maybe it's there. But
Ah,
if you want to unmute yourself or you want to share something, you can just text it on the group chat, and I can either unmute you or you can even text your answer on the chat too. So
okay, because I have the chat open, so if you want to text it on the chat, I can read it.
yeah, so Noor, if you would, yeah, okay,
Sure,
perfect.
okay.
And then Darla,
Yes.
could we get you to maybe like you have the chat open, but could you maybe put it to either the right side or the
Oh,
left side of the screen?
that would be handy.
Because it just shows up as we can't see what's in the chat, but it just shows up as like a blue box.
A blue box over the
Um,
slide.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
no problem.
but that's perfect.
Okay. So I don't see anything yet. Is Noor, are we getting anything? Ah, there we go. Oftentimes, even if I do realize what's causing me anxiety or stress somehow, I find it very difficult to deal with it. Mostly, I end up alone in my room crying. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that is definitely that overwhelming sensation of not being able to manage your emotions like you normally are able to do each and every day. That, that having to go and retreat and cry is a big indicator emotionally that things are not going so well for us. The slightest inconvenience, I start crying. Okay, so that's definitely a sign. We're going to talk about some things that can help with that. And I think based on your comment, which is really good, it brought to my mind that maybe I should differentiate between, at the end, differentiate between when is kind of like normal stress and when things get to a point that you are simply just too overwhelmed and it's not going away. So thank you, Noor, for very much for that. Okay. Um, you know what? Maybe I'll do that right now because I'll probably forget if we wait till the end. So one of the things when we talk about stress, stress is a normal thing, and it comes at us in so many different ways throughout our life. And there are times when we're feeling really stressed and times when we're okay. The times when we're feeling really stressed is when we need to implement some skills. However, here is what the big difference is. Oftentimes, when things are going on in your life, like multiple things usually, or sometimes it can be one really huge thing that just doesn't go away. Um, it's been there so long and we've been struggling so long, it starts to slip into something else. So it kind of slips from what's normal life stressors that have been challenging to a state of where we could be feeling either constant anxiety or constant low mood. So these are things that, kind of needs to be teased out with a professional. But when somebody finds that they're feeling anxious almost each and every day for a period of time, let's say a month, even 2 weeks, or that they notice that their mood is quite low, again, for a period of like 2 weeks, and it's not kind of shifting. Oh, sorry, my dog's chewing on things. That could be, something else, more like a anxiety or a depression that takes a little bit more focus or some assistance from, a professional or something. So it's important to know that because lots of times people can start to experience, well, and I don't want to scare anybody here, but can start to experience a depression. And sometimes that depression is brought on by a number of consistent life stressors, or a huge life stressor that's been just at us, like one thing at us for a long time. Because stress changes our body's chemicals and it changes kind of the way we think a little bit. So in that video, you probably heard, stress causes cortisol to be released in the body. And so and adrenaline, cortisol and adrenaline. So when when our body's constantly flooded with cortisol and adrenaline, our body chemistry starts to change a bit. And that's one of the reasons why people feel, that they could be depressed after undergoing lots of stress. I'll leave it there. I'll just get into a big rabbit hole, but I hope that helps. Okay, let's look at some skills. And I have to apologize. My dog is just having a great time with the peanut butter jar, so hopefully she won't make too much noise in the background. Okay, so mindfulness. I suspect that everybody has heard about mindfulness. It's talked a lot about um, in schools. There's lots of books read about it. It's one of those cognitive skills that we can use to help direct our focus. It directs our focus to be more in the present moment, and it helps us then to calm ourselves. When we are focused on what's happening right now, as opposed to worrying about what's going to happen in the future or stressing about what's happened in the past, we have more of a sense of mental and physical calmness. So there's one activity that we use often. It's called the mindfulness stone. And it's kind of important for two reasons. So one, when we do something like this exercise, we allow ourselves a bit of time to check in with ourselves, kind of think about what our body is feeling. And sometimes when we're really busy, we don't do that self-check-in at all. When we practice this consistently, we begin to notice, what is our baseline, our good, happy state, and compared to when we're getting into really stressful situations. So this is something that's good to use, every day, and it only takes like about 5 minutes. So if you guys could just find a little something near you, it doesn't have to be a stone, but it could be like a pen or anything. And we're just going to go through this exercise. It only takes a couple of minutes. And I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is what I use often. It's a little blow-in glass thing. And it really helps me to focus on the present by using this object. So you're going to hold the object that you have in your hand up in front of you. And you're going to take a couple of really big deep breaths. So you're taking that air down to your lower abdomen, and then you're blowing it out through your nose very, very slowly. So we want to take a big deep breath in, hold it, and then let the air out. I said nose, I'm sorry, through your mouth very, very slowly. And you want to take your attention to the object you're holding in your hand. Continue the deep breathing, but just focus on this object. And while you're focusing on this object, I'm just going to ask you a few questions and you can just ponder it in your mind. So when you look at whatever object that you have in your hand, is it heavy? Is it smooth or rough? Is it round or a different shape? Does it have edges or sharp points? Focus on the object in your hand. Take a big, deep breath. What color is the object? While you're trying to focus on the object, do you notice anything about your thoughts? Are they fleeting, flying around? Are you able to focus on the object? Bring your attention back to the object. Are there any imperfections? When you hold it tight in your hand, does it feel warm? Does it feel cold? Interestingly, does it have a smell or a sound to it when you move it? Now focus on the object again and take a big, deep breath. Okay. Now, what I'm wondering is, did you have a difficult time in, I don't know what that was, maybe 2 minutes, simply just focusing on the object and bringing your attention back to the object? Because oftentimes what happens is that, whoops, is that it takes, it's a lot for us to focus. Our mind, runs 6,000 to 10,000 thoughts every day. There's lots of things going on. And so it's very easy for our mind to wander away when we're trying to be mindful and just stay in the present. And we're using the object to help us be in the present. Now, that was only 2 minutes. 5 minutes is probably a good place to start, and keep practicing that over and over. So how the heck does this help us with stress? Well, like one, we're checking in with ourselves. So we wouldn't necessarily use those questions. We could, because we want to, just focus our mind. But while we're doing that, we're going to be checking in with, how's my body feeling right now? Where do I feel tension? Is my body relaxed? Or, do I have all this stress related stuff going on, like an upset stomach, or my head feels blurry and unfocused, or my muscles feel tense? And then you're also going to check in with your emotions. And it helps us to figure out, what are the clues that are coming forth. And oftentimes, I think when we get into really busy times, we're just on automatic. We're not noticing what's going on with ourselves. So by using a mindfulness exercise like this, it helps us stay in the present moment and really check in with our thoughts, our feelings, and our physical body. The other important thing is do find, going forward, do find a special object. So this is why we use stones when we're with clients, because something that is small that you can carry with you, whether it's in a purse or a wallet. It even could be something like a bracelet or a necklace, so that it's kind of always with you. It starts to become the item which you associate with that deep, relaxing breath, as well as being in the moment and kind of calming yourself, even if it's just for a few minutes at a time. So when you pick up that object again, it gives you that instant association of calmness. So the item itself can be a calming, a calming skill. For little kids, when I work with little kids, they often have a favorite stuffy. Hey, if you're older, you can have a favorite stuffy too, but little kids is always a favorite stuffy that they bring to the counseling sessions, and then we go through this exercise, and their stuffy then becomes what they associate with being calm. So it's important to have like that designated object. Okay. Practice. The more consistent we are with, practicing. How can I get, there we go. Let me get rid of this. The more consistent we are with practicing things like mindfulness and some of the other skills, the more it becomes a habit to us. So the important thing is not just to use it every now and then when you're noticing that life has become overwhelming to you, but that you use various skills even at times when everything's going great. It just becomes a normal practice like brushing your teeth, because as good dental health is important, so is good mental health. So practice is very important. Mm, okay. So I'm going to talk a bit about your toolbox and things that we can, more skills that we can tap into in order to help lower our stress level, our anxiety level. And it's important to note that these things are not magical. You have to practice them a lot, and it's like a nice progression. It takes time, but it does help in the immediate sense. But as you use it more and more, the skills, you'll find that they become more effective. So it's kind of like what they said in the video. It's like these skills are like a tap in our stress bucket that empties some of that pressure. Now, just like everything else that stresses us, some of our skills are very individual as well. So think about for a minute, if you do anything particular that you find helps to lower your stress level. And it'd be best if it, would be healthy stuff. Because I'm sure everybody does unhealthy stuff to lower their stress level, but let's focus on the healthy. So it might be exercising, it might be taking a hot bath, it might be chatting with a friend. So whatever you can think of that you've used so far, just write it down on that piece of paper. I'll just give you a couple seconds for that. Okay. Does anybody have any they want to share? No? Okay. Well, I guess I'm going to have to share some then. So the things that help me to keep my stress in check, definitely getting a great night's sleep. That is important to me above all other things. I like to walk my dog, so being outside, getting fresh air, I find is very stress relieving for me. When I really want to relax, I like to have a nice bubble bath, Epsom salts, bath salts, that sort of thing. And probably, not that you have to do these things, but things like deep breathing while listening to like really nice music, or putting on some music and moving around, like dancing when nobody's watching kind of thing. It just kind of lightens how you're feeling inside. So those would be some things that are my go-tos. So those are part of what is my toolbox. Excuse me. So when we think about any skills to improve our mental health, we can actually use them in um, a literal box. So, little things like affirmation cards, notes to yourself. Put these in an actual box Or if you don't want to do that, a special location in your room. Stick them in your wallet, your purse, your backpack. And, if none of that works for you, make a list of different go-tos on your phone. So soothing activities. So when we're talking about, how to relieve our stress, I think I'm going to have to move this here. I think I'm using some power. We're always using our five senses, or you can think six senses. So our five senses include touch, sight, hearing, smelling, taste, and movement. So all activities that we use to tackle stress and even things like anxiety and depression have to do with targeting, your five senses, using your five senses in some way. So sight, looking at pleasant pictures, watching something interesting on YouTube. I wouldn't say scrolling through social media endlessly because that can be a big, deep rabbit hole, but looking at some pleasant images on your phone, things that make you smile, like those, I don't know, for me, those dog videos make me laugh or smile. Sound. So this, of course, is where the music comes in. So, listening to your favorite song. Maybe you play a musical instrument, playing the musical instrument for a while. Or even sounds like rain, ocean waves. One of the things in terms of sound that is most calming to me, which helps me sleep all the time, and I can't live without it now because it's my instant, you're tired sound, is the sound of a fan. So summer, winter, no matter what, I'm running a fan because it's that sound that I focus on and it calms me immediately. Smell. So our smell is one of the strongest senses we have, and we have associations to smell the most as compared to all the other senses. So when we smell something really good, like it could be a hand lotion or it could be a certain candle that has a smell, and it makes us um, or helps us think about happy memories, and it makes us feel happy and calm. So to think about things that you can gather that have a really nice smell. Taste. Things like little candies and chocolates, that sort of thing that you would put in your mouth, and you wouldn't gobble it up because then you'd want more and more and more, but you would just really focus on it like we did in the mindful activity and enjoy the sensation of having that chocolate in your mouth and how it tastes and feels and melts. So these are all like little ideas of having a little dedicated skill toolbox area. Feel, or rather touch. Again, as all human beings, we usually like to feel things that are smooth or fuzzy, or warm. And so you can think of like, what is something that feels very delightful and calming when you hold it in your hand? That's why rocks are very interesting because it can be, especially the smooth ones. Um, we can hold it in our hand, it becomes warm, and it helps to be something that can calm us. This is why fidgets, I should mention fidgets. Fidgets are another thing. Fidgets can help people focus in the moment. It can help somebody calm in the moment. So a favorite fidget is a good thing. And then, of course, movement. So we all need exercise. We all need movement. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. If it is, like if you're going for a 5K, that's crazy to me. Jog, go for it. Other than that, just a little bit of a walk, dancing, stretching, anything like that is a skill that helps with our with our stress and anxiety levels. So the things that I always tell my clients is that none of this is rocket science. The problem is we know these things, but we don't use them. Even though they're good for us, we don't use them. That's why it's so important to Practice them consistently and make it into a habit. And then lastly, write some of these out, things that you find that are pleasant activities for you. So some other ones that are on here: do yoga, take a bath, journal, listen to a podcast, and probably something that's more on the positive side of, or a funny podcast, something that's going to switch your emotions to a more happy state, something that makes you laugh always helps with calming us. Um, Visit the museum, go for a walk, bake something if you're into cooking or baking. Um, do origami. I can't even say that. Some of these, like, these are just ideas. Go to the library. The library is very calming because it's quiet there. Volunteer. So volunteering somewhere, why that's a really good idea is because it takes our attention away from ourselves and focuses on something else. That's sometimes why when we're really involved, with talking to a friend or doing an activity, that we don't feel as stressed at that moment because our attention is focused elsewhere. Now you notice that the last 3 slides, the pleasant activities, soothing activities, which gives you many ideas, the toolbox, and the mindfulness stone activity, are in the handout section. And so it would be good to make sure that you print those off and start implementing a couple of them each and every day. I always think it's good to just pick a couple of things that you may want or that interests you, that, kind of suits your personality. So you do that consistently for a small period of time every day. So it becomes a bit of a habit. And then, you can add other things or switch it up. Jumping full into doing a whole bunch of things to try and, reduce your stress levels, start to feel more regulated or balanced. We usually burn ourselves out, just like when we say, well, I'm going to go and work out every day for an hour a day, 7 days a week. And then usually by week 2, we decide to take a day off. And then 3 months later, we haven't worked out at all. So small incremental steps. Okay, I think that's it. Are there any questions from anybody? You could do a little chatty thing. Well, if not, I want to thank you for joining me this evening. Next Monday, we're doing the same topic, same thing. I'm going to ask you guys, if you know anybody who you think could benefit from this, get them to sign up. I mean, well, any young person, ages 12 to 25, get them to sign up on HOMEBASE. And I'd love to kind of, have more people out. Okay, I got a little thing on the chat. Hold on. Whoops. Wait a sec. Okay. Oh, thank you so much. Okay. How do we know when to seek professional help? There isn't any one specific thing that tells you, I need to seek professional help, because, you can be struggling with absolutely anything. And if you feel like talking to an objective person, who does this for a living could be helpful for you, then you go for it. But I think, if you find that your emotions are really in charge of you as opposed to you being in charge of your emotions, then it's like, well, that's a really good sign that maybe you need some extra guidance in this area because it might be just too hard to do it on your own. So I always think that emotions and things you're feeling in your body, those are the things that are going to give you the huge clues that you're really struggling when your emotions are really high and unregulated, like for a period of time, or you're feeling constantly sick, or your body hurts and you're always tired and you're always sleeping a lot, or on the other end, you're not sleeping at all, you can't sleep at all. Those are signs that something's going on that maybe you should talk to somebody. I hope that was helpful. And anything else before we close it off for tonight? Sorry, we had some technical difficulty at the beginning. Okay. You are very welcome. I'm very happy that you asked questions. So I love that people ask questions. So I have to hear myself talk all the time. Okay. Well, I hope that I see the people who came tonight in some of the future sessions. I shall be your person for all the future sessions that we're having. So it'd be nice to see some of you back, and I maybe can even get to know you a little bit via the chat thing. Okay.
Yeah. And if you guys still want to show up again to the next one as well, it is going to be the same topic, but if you feel like you need a refresher as well, or you want to bring a friend with you, please feel free to do that.
Yeah.
But
And
again, I just wanted to take some time to thank Darla as well. Thank you so much. This was honestly really helpful. I was taking down notes while you were talking as well. I didn't want to take away from the youth and like talk a lot more, but I think I might like chime in next time when we do this. But no, this was very helpful. Thank
good.
you so much.
Yes. Well, and certainly, like, next Monday, who knows? I might switch it up a little bit. It'll be basically the same, but there might be a few other things thrown in. Who knows?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much and have a good night, everybody.
Thank you so much everyone for coming.
Okay.